Welcome. I'm Pat Postma, and I'm so glad the National Association of Japanese Gardens have come to Oak Ridge and visit us today. This beautiful bonsho behind me is a very important thing, and I want to tell you a little bit about that. There was no Oak Ridge, Tennessee, of course, in 1942 when the Manhattan Project located part of the design and science for the atomic bomb here. This bell commemorates the fact that our town and Japan are inextricably bound together. When it was time for our town to think about its 50th anniversary and what it was to say about who we are and who we want to be, our statement was born of war, living in peace, and growing through science. This bell was the monument we chose to represent that thought in our relationship to Japan. It's called the International Friendship Bell. Let's go look at it a little bit closer.
So, what are you going to say
The bell was funded by people in Oak Ridge and people in Japan, including the transportation, with the help of Shigeko Belluri and her family. She was a Japanese resident of Oak Ridge. It is a beautiful sounding bell, and it is an iconic part of the city of Oak Ridge and in our hearts. The Friendship Bell is in a new site here. It was originally in another place in this beautiful park in the middle of our city. But the architect who designed this Peace Pavilion for us combined the traditions of Japan with the science of Oak Ridge. Those beams you see over the bell are carbon fiber beams. And this was the first. Nobody else had ever made beams like this before. We're just putting some landscaping around this new site, but the first thing that went in was our Karasan-sui garden here. And at this point, I want to say thank you to Martin McKellar. Martin is the curator of the Asian Garden at the Harn Museum in Florida, and Martin was kind enough to consent to be our consultant, our mentor, our inspirer. He came here for a 2-day workshop and taught us to be volunteer rakers, and has been a real cheerleader for us ever since. On one of those cold January days when we were practicing out here in this garden with our 3 rocks, somebody made a comment about the rocks, and Martin said, there are 3 rocks, but you rakers are the 4th rock. And that inspired us. We love that thought, and you'll see that all 3 of us here have this wonderful t-shirt on, And it is our logo and our name for our volunteer rakers, Fourth Rocks. And this represents the bell. Debbie Cutler was one of those rakers who was at that first workshop, and she's doing our raking today. Debbie, tell us what you're using and how you're using Tanaka-san's designs.
Well, Toshiko Tanaka is the artist, and she drew several renderings of the symbols for peace in Japanese. There was Hei, the first symbol, which she represented as a mountain, and the second symbol was I, which was 2 commas, and the third symbol was Wa, which represented a circle. So her circle of peace is what we were aiming to do in each of our gardens, and she gave us some ideas on how we might be able to incorporate that. Each garden is a different size and shape, and so it was challenging to make a unifying design for all of us, but we each interpreted it in our own way. So for this particular design, what I was trying to represent were many of her symbols, and to have waves and those mountains and then flowing with the peace. She felt like the peace should flow from country to country, from garden to garden, to people, and inspire all of us. So one thing that I had done, and then she had also augmented her design to do, is to incorporate the U.S. peace symbol in it as well. And so if you think of the symbols that the mountain and the commas and the circle, and you look at the peace symbol, you can actually see all 3 elements in the peace symbol. And with our 3 rocks, it just makes it even better. So you've got a circle for one of the symbols, and then you can think of the 2 commas as the ones, the points that go out, and then the one down the middle, well, or this one as the mountain, sorry, and then whatever. So what I'm going to do right now is add the actual, the artist's interpretations of these symbols, which is first the mountain, and then we'll have a couple little commas. Some of these, she said, could be made even into triangles. But I chose to use the smaller rake with just 3 prongs instead of, we have several sizes of rakes, and they're good for different things. So we have one big circle here to do yet. It depends on how well you can make circles as to whether you have to do them again. So that one's not too round, but it's okay. So Pat, I think you have some more things to tell us.
I just want to comment how imaginative this is, and your flow, your comments about the flow, that she hoped the piece would flow, really is represented well here. I just love it. Thank you for doing it.
Well, thank you.
And it turns out that these designs for peace are not the only ones that are going to be here. I have in my hand some delightful rocks. Traditionally in Oak Ridge, the Girl Scouts present a peace program at the Friendship Bell every year, but this year we're not doing that because of the social distancing requirements. But the Girl Scouts turned themselves into artists, and they've taken Tanaka-san's elements, symbols of peace, and created stones. I love this one. This one has Mount Fuji on it, and actually the Japanese kanji, as does this one. And this is an interesting double representation of the symbols. Every rock has on it the date and Peace Day, and these rocks will be here on September 21st, right next to the garden. So any visitors who come to the garden can pick up one of these rocks as a remembrance of Peace Day. I hope that some of you who are listening to this get to Oak Ridge, and if you do, please let us know. We'd love to meet you and show off our garden. Thank you.